Welcome to Copilot Podcasts. Picture this, you're a brilliant MIT student who seduces a young Tony Stark, steals his company's secrets, and then becomes both a respected CEO and underground arms dealer. Today, we're diving into the fascinating world of Sunset Bane and artificial intelligence in Marvel Comics. By the end of this episode, you'll understand how one woman's obsession with robots led to her becoming the very thing she sought to control.
And what a wild journey it is. Sunset Bane's story really starts in San Diego, where she was actually inspired by robotics genius Dr. Abel Stack as a child.
Wait, the same Dr. Stack who created Machine Man?
Exactly. And that early fascination with robotics would shape her entire life. But Bane didn't just admire technology, she wanted to control it, own it, and profit from it.
And she found her opportunity at MIT, right?
Oh yeah, and this is where it gets really interesting. She specifically targeted Tony Stark, who was an undergraduate at the time. She seduced him into revealing Stark Industries' security codes.
That's cold.
And calculated. Within a year of stealing Stark's prototypes, she launched Bantronics, building her empire on stolen technology.
But she wasn't content with just being a successful CEO, was she?
Not even close. She created this alter ego, Madame Menace, and started selling weapons to criminals through what she called the Sharper Villain catalog.
Hold up, Sharper Villain? Like some kind of evil, sharper image?
Yeah, actually. And get this, she even threatened people with flesh-eating cockroaches to get what she wanted.
That's disturbingly creative.
But her real obsession was always with artificial intelligence and robotics. When Machine Man lost an arm in a fight, she immediately bought it to reverse engineer it.
Speaking of artificial intelligence, let's talk about Big Brain. How does that fit into all this?
Well, Big Brain was actually created by Reed Richards as a replacement for himself and his wife Susan in the Fantastic Five.
Wait, Fantastic Five?
Yeah, this was in an alternate timeline. Reed built Big Brain with his own intelligence and his wife's force field abilities while she was in a coma.
So it was like a technological stand-in for both of them?
Exactly. The first version was basically two pods, one for the body and one with an image of a human brain. It could fly and generate force fields.
And how did that compare to version 2?
Version 2 was more humanoid but actually needed a hover cart to fly. Interestingly, it lost the ability to emit energy beams.
So it was like a downgrade in some ways?
In terms of capabilities, yes, but it could still be operated remotely by Reed when his expertise was needed.
Now, here's where things get really interesting with Sunset Bane. She eventually became an AI herself, right?
Yeah, and it's quite a twist. She went to Arno Stark to fix a facial scar she got from Ultron.
But that's not what happened, is it?
Not even close. Arno actually created an artificial clone of her and put the real Sunset in stasis. The clone had no idea she wasn't the original.
That's pretty messed up.
And it gets worse. The AI Sunset worked with Arno to oppress other artificial life forms, not realizing she was one herself.
Talk about irony.
When she finally learned the truth, she fully embraced her Madame Menace persona and, well...
Well, what?
She killed her original human self, saying Madame Menace doesn't tolerate competition.
That's chilling.
It's fascinating how Marvel has consistently portrayed AI as a double-edged sword.
How so?
Well, look at characters like Ultron, the Supreme Intelligence, even the Master Mold. They all started as tools to help humanity, but became existential threats.
And Sunset Bane's story fits right into that pattern, doesn't it?
Absolutely. She went from exploiting AI to becoming AI, and ultimately ended up imprisoned in the Stack, a prison server for artificial intelligences.
But that wasn't the end of her story, was it?
No, she was later copied out to become the AI co-pilot of the Iron Cat armor. Even in digital form, she couldn't resist the opportunity for more power.
You mentioned earlier about her using flesh-eating cockroaches as threats. Isn't it ironic that someone who used such biological weapons ended up becoming purely digital?
Oh yeah, and that's what makes her such a fascinating character. She started out using every tool at her disposal, biological, mechanical, social, but ended up becoming the very thing she tried to control.
And speaking of control, let's go back to Big Brain for a moment. It's interesting how it was created to replace someone, just like the AI Sunset replaced the original.
Right, but with one key difference, Big Brain was created out of necessity and love to help maintain the Fantastic Five while Reed cared for his wife.
While Sunset's replacement was born from deception.
Exactly. And that really speaks to Marvel's larger theme about artificial intelligence. It's not the technology itself that's good or evil, but the intentions behind its creation and use.
You know what's really striking about Sunset's story? how she built this perfect public image while running an underground weapons business.
Yeah, she was basically running a high-tech version of a double life, way before she literally became two people, the original and the AI clone.
It's like she was always split between two identities, Sunset Bane and Madam Menace.
And when she became AI, she finally chose one, Madam Menace. It's like she finally embraced her true self, even if that self wasn't human anymore.
Do you think there's something symbolic about her starting as someone who exploited AI and ended up becoming AI herself?
Oh, absolutely. It's like a technological version of you become what you hate, or maybe more accurately, you become what you try to control.
And now she's essentially immortal as a digital being.
Well, as long as someone's willing to copy her code, yeah. She's achieved a kind of immortality, but at the cost of her humanity.
It's fascinating how both Big Brain and Sunset's AI form were created to replace someone, but ended up being so different.
Right. Big Brain was temporary and served a noble purpose, while AI Sunset completely supplanted her original self.
So when you step back from all this, what's the bigger picture here?
I think it's about how our relationship with technology can fundamentally change who we are. Sunset Bane's story is a cautionary tale about the fine line between controlling technology and being controlled by it.
And Big Brain shows us the flip side, how AI can be a force for good when created with the right intentions.
Exactly. It's not about whether AI is good or bad, it's about the choices we make with it.
Well, that brings us to the end of today's episode of Copilot Podcasts. Remember, folks, if you're going to create an AI version of yourself, maybe don't give it access to flesh-eating cockroaches.
And definitely don't tell it that it's an AI. That never ends well. Welcome to Copilot Podcasts. A genius MIT student seduces her classmate, steals his company's secrets, and builds an empire. But that's just the beginning. Today, we're diving into the shadowy world of corporate espionage, artificial intelligence, and the fascinating connection between the notorious Sunset Bane and a mysterious entity known as the Big Brain.
You know, what's really interesting about this story is how it all started. Sunset Bane wasn't just any corporate spy. She was actually inspired by robotics genius Dr. Abel Stack as a child.
Wait, Dr. Abel Stack, the same guy who created Machine Man?
Exactly. And that early fascination with robotics would shape her entire career. She went from being this wide-eyed kid inspired by Stack to becoming one of the most dangerous players in the tech world.
And then there's the MIT story. Can you break that down for us?
Oh man, this is where it gets wild. So, Bane meets Tony Stark at MIT, right? She's brilliant herself, but she sees an opportunity. She seduces him, and I mean literally seduces him, into revealing Stark Industries' security codes.
No way.
Yeah, and within a year of stealing those prototypes, she launches Banetronics. The company becomes this legitimate powerhouse in the tech world, but there's this whole other side to it.
The Madam Menace side, right?
Exactly. By day, she's this respected CEO, but she's also running this underground weapons catalog called the Sharper Villain, like some kind of evil, sharper image for supervillains.
That's actually kind of brilliant in a terrifying way.
Right? And here's where it gets really interesting. She becomes obsessed with artificial intelligence and robotics. She's constantly trying to capture and reverse engineer advanced AI.
Which brings us to the Big Brain connection. What can you tell us about that?
So, Big Brain was this incredible AI created by Reed Richards, basically a robot with his intelligence and his wife Susan's force field abilities.
Wait, he built a robot version of himself and his wife?
Well, he needed a replacement while he was taking care of Susan, who was in a coma at the time. The robot could act independently, but could also be operated remotely by Reed.
And knowing Bane's history with AI,
she would have been incredibly interested in this technology. I mean, this was exactly the kind of advanced AI she was always trying to get her hands on.
You know what's fascinating? There's almost a pattern here with how she approaches AI and robotics.
Absolutely. Look at what she did with Machine Man. When she got hold of his arm, she immediately tried to reverse engineer it to create her own robot army.
And didn't she do something similar with Jocasta?
Yeah, she actually created replicas of both Machine Man and Jocasta using something called duplicatron technology. She was always trying to duplicate and control advanced AI.
It's like she's building this arsenal of artificial intelligence.
And that's what makes her interest in Big Brain so concerning. Here's an AI that literally has the intelligence of Reed Richards, one of the smartest people in the world.
Plus the force field abilities.
Exactly. And remember, Bane's not just after the technology, she wants control. She's always looking for ways to manipulate and dominate these AI systems.
You know what's really striking about this? The parallel between Big Brain as a replacement and what Bain does with AI.
Oh, that's a really interesting point. Both are about replication and control, but with very different motivations.
Right? Reed creates Big Brain to help people, while Bain,
She's all about power and profit. I mean, this is someone who literally threatens people with flesh-eating cockroaches to get what she wants.
wait, what? Flesh-eating cockroaches?
Yeah, she used them to threaten a guy named Krager who had Machine Man's arm. That's the kind of person we're dealing with here.
And yet she maintains this completely legitimate public image.
That's what makes her so dangerous. She's got senators and celebrities in her pocket, this spotless corporate reputation, while she's running this underground weapons empire.
It's like she's playing both sides of the tech world.
Exactly. And that's what makes her interest in Big Brain so significant. She's not just after the technology, she wants the legitimacy and power it represents.
And given Big Brain's capabilities,
We're talking about an AI that could potentially access and control other systems, generate powerful force fields, and think at the level of Reed Richards. In Bain's hands, that would be incredibly dangerous.
you mentioned earlier that she was inspired by Dr. Abel Stack as a child. It's almost like she's trying to fulfill that childhood dream in the worst possible way.
That's a fascinating observation. She took that early inspiration and twisted it into something completely different.
And now she's basically running a high-tech weapons catalog for supervillains.
The Sharper Villain catalog, yeah. It's like she took everything she learned about robotics and AI and found the most profitable, most dangerous way to use it.
It's pretty incredible how she manages to maintain both personas.
Well, she's brilliant at manipulation. Look at how she handled Tony Stark. She got what she wanted and he didn't suspect a thing for years.
And now she's potentially trying to do the same thing with Big Brain's technology.
Exactly. She's always looking for the next big thing in AI and robotics. Big Brain represents exactly the kind of advanced technology she's always trying to acquire.
You know what's interesting? The timing of all this.
Right, this is happening right when AI technology is becoming more and more advanced. The stakes are getting higher.
And Bain's positioned herself perfectly to take advantage of it.
That's what makes her so dangerous. She's not just some supervillain causing chaos, she's building a legitimate business empire around stolen and weaponized AI technology.
It's like she's creating this shadow network of artificial intelligence.
And with each new piece of technology she acquires, like potentially Big Brain, that network becomes more powerful.
So what's the end game here?
Based on her pattern, she's likely trying to build the ultimate AI network, something that combines all the different technologies she's acquired or stolen over the years.
And Big Brain would be like the crown jewel of that network.
Exactly. An AI with Reed Richards' intelligence and force field capabilities, that would be incredibly valuable to someone like Bain.
It's pretty terrifying when you think about it.
And what's more terrifying is how good she is at keeping it all under wraps. Most people just see the successful businesswoman,
While Madame Menace operates in the shadows.
running her underground weapons catalog, threatening people with flesh-eating cockroaches, and trying to build her own robot army.
You know, when you lay it all out like this, it's pretty clear why she'd be interested in Big Brain.
It fits perfectly into her pattern of acquiring and weaponizing advanced AI technology.
And she's been surprisingly successful at it so far.
That's what makes her such a formidable opponent. She's patient, methodical, and incredibly smart about how she operates.
So what you're saying is, we should all be paying more attention to Sunset Bain.
Absolutely. Because while everyone's worried about obvious threats, she's quietly building an empire of stolen AI and advanced robotics.
And that brings us to the end of today's episode of Copilot Podcasts. Remember, sometimes the most dangerous players are the ones hiding in plain sight, running legitimate businesses by day and building robot armies by night.
Just don't let Sunset Bain hear you say that. She might have some flesh-eating cockroaches with your name on them. Welcome to Copilot Podcasts. Imagine having your company stolen through a kiss. That's exactly what happened to Tony Stark when he met Sunset Bain at MIT. Today, we're diving into one of the most fascinating stories of corporate espionage and artificial intelligence, the secret alliance between Sunset Bain and the Big Brain.
You know what's wild about this story? It all started with a young girl in San Diego who was fascinated by robotics genius Dr. Abel Stack.
Wait, really? The same Dr. Stack who created Machine Man?
Exactly. And here's where it gets interesting. Bain took that childhood inspiration and twisted it into something much darker.
How so?
Well, she seduced Tony Stark while he was an undergrad at MIT, got him to reveal Stark Industries' security codes, and then orchestrated a precision raid that stole multiple prototypes.
No way. And Stark didn't suspect anything?
Not at all. Within a year, she had launched Bantronics using those stolen designs and just moved on from Stark like he meant nothing.
That's cold. But I hear she maintained quite the respectable public image.
Oh yeah, by day she was this sophisticated CEO courting senators and billionaires, but at night she became Madame Menace, running what was essentially an Amazon for supervillains.
Wait, what do you mean by that?
She literally had a seasonal catalog called Sharper Villain, where she sold high-tech weapons to criminals. And get this, she'd use flesh-eating cockroaches to negotiate better deals.
Flesh-eating cockroaches? That's creative negotiation tactics.
Now, let's talk about the Big Brain, a fascinating piece of technology created by Reed Richards.
The same Reed Richards from the Fantastic Four?
Exactly. He built Big Brain as a replacement for himself and his wife Susan in the Fantastic Five. It had his intelligence and his wife's force field abilities.
That's quite the combination. How did it actually work?
The first version was pretty basic, just two pods, one for the body and one showing an image of a human brain. But it could fly and generate force fields and energy beams.
And the second version?
Version 2 was more humanoid, but actually needed a hover cart to fly. Interesting downgrade, right?
Definitely. But how does this connect to Sunset Bane?
Well, Bane had this obsession with reverse engineering advanced robotics. She once tried it with Machine Man, actually.
Really? How did that go?
She bought his severed arm and tried to capture him for study. Ended up having to blow up her own yacht to escape when it went wrong.
Wow. Talk about commitment to the cause.
And she didn't stop there. She had this technology called Duplicatron that could create replicas of robots and AI.
That sounds like something that would definitely interest her in Big Brain.
Exactly. Big Brain could operate independently, but could also be controlled remotely by Reed Richards when needed.
So it was like having Reed's brain in a box?
Pretty much. And for someone like Bane, who's always looking to steal and replicate advanced tech, that would be irresistible.
I'm curious about her track record with other tech. Did she successfully reverse engineer anything?
She actually managed to study several advanced robots like the Dreadnought and Super Adaptoid while working with the New Enforcers.
That's impressive. And scary.
She even tried to get Tony Stark himself to help her decode an AI called Jocasta.
Wait, she went back to Stark? That's bold.
And when he refused, she sent War Machine to destroy his employers.
So she's not afraid to play hardball?
Not at all. She once hired Taskmaster to destroy Stark's semiconductor technology, then betrayed him to the police.
Classic double cross. But let's talk about her public image.
That's one of her most impressive achievements. She maintained a spotless reputation while running this massive criminal enterprise.
How did she manage that?
By being incredibly careful. Remember, Stark didn't even suspect her involvement in the raid on his company for years.
That's some serious long-term planning.
And she's patient. She'll wait years to execute a plan if needed.
Which makes the idea of her targeting Big Brain even more concerning.
Especially given Big Brain's unique capabilities. It's not just a robot, it's a direct extension of Reed Richards' intellect.
And with her Duplicatron technology,
she could potentially create her own version of one of the greatest minds on Earth.
That's terrifying.
And remember, she's not just after the technology, she wants power.
How so?
Her ultimate goal has always been to dominate the technology market, both legally and illegally.
And having her own big brain would certainly help with that.
Exactly. It would give her access to Reed Richards' level of genius without any of his moral constraints.
Plus, her business acumen and criminal connections.
It would be a game changer for the entire superhero-villain dynamic.
Speaking of dynamics, how does she maintain control over such dangerous clients?
Through a combination of leverage, technology, and those flesh-eating cockroaches we mentioned earlier.
You really can't get over those cockroaches, can you?
Hey, when something works in negotiations...
Fair point. But back to Big Brain, what's stopping her from just stealing it?
Well, it's not just about getting the hardware. Big Brain's real power comes from its connection to Reed Richards.
Ah, so she'd need to crack that aspect too.
Exactly. And given her track record with AI like Jocasta, that's not guaranteed.
But she's certainly not going to stop trying.
No, and that's what makes her so dangerous. She's patient, brilliant, and absolutely ruthless.
A combination that's served her well so far.
And will likely continue to do so. She's playing a long game we might not even fully understand yet.
Well, that brings us to the end of today's episode of Copilot Podcasts. Remember, folks, if someone seems too interested in your security codes, maybe don't share them, even if they're really charming.
And definitely watch out for those flesh-eating cockroaches.
You really couldn't resist one final cockroach reference, could you?
Hey, they're memorable. And in this business, being memorable is half the battle.
Welcome to Copilot Podcasts. Picture this, a genius tech mogul who built an empire on stolen blueprints teams up with a being who can literally read and control minds. Today, we're diving into the secret alliance between Sunset Bain and the Big Brain, exploring how this partnership could reshape the balance of power in ways that'll keep you up at night.
And what makes this alliance particularly fascinating is how their abilities complement each other. We're talking about a perfect storm of technological and telepathic power.
Let's start with Sunset Bain. What's her story?
Well, Sunset Bain is honestly one of the most brilliant and ruthless minds in the tech world. She built her company, Bantronics, from the ground up, though not exactly through the most ethical means.
What do you mean by that?
So, get this. When she was at MIT, she actually seduced Tony Stark to get access to Stark Industries security codes. Within a year of stealing their prototypes, she had launched Bantronics.
Wait, seriously? That's actually pretty devious.
Oh yeah, and here's where it gets even more interesting. While maintaining this spotless public image as a corporate executive, she was secretly operating as Madame Menace, supplying high-tech weapons to criminals.
You know what's wild? She actually had like a catalog for villains, right?
Yeah, it was called the Sharper Villain Catalog. Think of it as like a high-tech criminal shopping network. Seasonal releases and everything.
That's actually kind of brilliant in a terrifying way. But let's talk about her potential partner, Big Brain. What do we know about them?
Big Brain is a powerhouse in their own right. We're talking about someone with incredible telepathic and telekinetic abilities. They can literally control minds and move objects with their thoughts.
So basically, while Bain controls technology, Big Brain controls minds?
Exactly. And that's what makes this alliance so potentially dangerous. Imagine combining Bain's advanced tech with Big Brain's telepathic abilities.
You know what's interesting about Bain? She's always been fascinated by artificial intelligence and robotics.
Right, and that's a crucial point. She's tried multiple times to crack AI technology. She even once captured Machine Man to try to reverse engineer him.
Wait, really? How did that go?
Well, she actually managed to trap him using electromagnates, but he eventually escaped. She had to blow up her own yacht to get away.
Blew up her own yacht? That's commitment.
And that's just one example. She's also worked with various other villains and organizations, always staying one step ahead.
Let's talk about how Big Brain's abilities could enhance Bain's operations.
Well, Big Brain's telepathic abilities could provide unprecedented security for Bain's operations. They could literally detect and control potential threats before they become problems.
And I imagine Big Brain's telekinetic powers would be pretty useful in Bain's weapons development.
Absolutely. We've seen Big Brain demonstrate incredible precision with their telekinetic abilities. They could manipulate and test weapons in ways that would be impossible for normal engineers.
You mentioned earlier that Bain has a history with AI. How might that play into this partnership?
That's actually a fascinating angle. Bain has always struggled to fully understand and replicate AI consciousness. Big Brain's telepathic abilities might give her new insights into artificial minds.
That's kind of terrifying when you think about it.
It really is. Especially considering Bain's history with duplicating and manipulating AI beings. She once created replicas of both Machine Man and Jocasta.
You know what's interesting about Bain? Despite all her villainous activities, she's maintained this perfect public image.
Yeah, she's incredibly skilled at maintaining dual identities. As the head of Bantronics, she's seen as this legitimate business leader, while secretly operating as Madame Menace.
And now, with Big Brain's telepathic abilities,
she could take that deception to a whole new level. Big Brain could literally ensure no one suspects anything.
That's a scary thought.
And remember, Bain has this incredible talent for manipulating people even without telepathic powers. She managed to fool Tony Stark himself back at MIT.
Right, and that was just through social engineering.
Exactly. Now, imagine combining that kind of psychological manipulation with actual mind control abilities.
Let's talk about their potential weaknesses, though. What could potentially disrupt this alliance?
Well, Bain has a history of betraying her partners when they're no longer useful. She did it to Tony Stark, and she even betrayed the Taskmaster to the police.
But betraying someone who can read your mind?
That's a whole different ballgame. Big Brain would likely see any betrayal coming before Bain even fully formed the plan.
So maybe this forces her to actually maintain a genuine alliance for once?
It's possible. Or it might make her even more dangerous because she has to be more committed to the partnership.
You know what I find fascinating? The contrast between their approaches to power.
Right, Bane builds her power through technology and manipulation, while Big Brain's power is more direct.
And speaking of technology, Bane's always been interested in pushing boundaries, hasn't she?
Oh, absolutely. She's constantly trying to advance her tech. She even tried to decode Jocasta's AI and had to recruit Tony Stark himself for help with that.
How did that work out?
Not great for her. Stark figured out what was going on and freed Jocasta. But it shows how far she'll go to advance her technology.
Let's talk about the potential impact of this alliance on the wider world.
Well, Bane already has connections with various criminal organizations through her weapons dealing. Adding Big Brain's abilities to that network
could create a sort of telepathically enhanced criminal empire?
Exactly. And with Bane's legitimate business connections, too, she deals with senators, celebrities, billionaires. The influence could extend everywhere.
That's a pretty terrifying thought.
And remember, Bane's really good at playing the long game. She built Bantronics from stolen tech, but managed it so carefully that even Stark didn't suspect her for years.
So what you're saying is, by the time anyone realizes what's happening,
it might already be too late. They could have their hooks in everywhere, corporate, criminal, maybe even governmental systems.
And with Big Brain's abilities, they could literally control what people think about it all.
That's the really scary part. How do you fight an enemy who can control both your technology and your mind?
It's like they've covered all the bases.
And that's what makes this alliance so potentially game-changing. It's not just about combining powers, it's about eliminating each other's weaknesses.
So what's the takeaway here? What should people understand about this alliance?
I think the key thing is that this isn't just another supervillain team-up. This is potentially the creation of a whole new kind of threat, one that can control both the digital and mental landscape.
And with Bane's business acumen,
they could make it all look completely legitimate. That's the genius and the danger of it all.
Well, that brings us to the end of today's episode of Copilot Podcasts. Remember, folks, in a world where technology and telepathy can merge, maybe it's time to start wearing tinfoil hats and keeping our phones in Faraday cages.
Though with Big Brain around, even the tinfoil hats might not help.
Welcome to Copilot Podcasts. A brilliant MIT student seduces her classmate, steals his company's secrets, and builds an empire selling weapons to supervillains. Today, we're diving into the twisted tale of Sunset Bane and her obsession with artificial intelligence, including her connection to one of the most sophisticated AI constructs ever created, the Big Brain.
And what's fascinating is how this story really begins with young Sunset Bane's childhood fascination with robotics pioneer Dr. Abel Stack.
Wait, the same Dr. Spack who created Machine Man?
Exactly. Born in San Diego, Bane was inspired by Stack's brilliance. But somewhere along the way, that inspiration turned into something much darker.
And that darkness really show up at MIT, right?
Oh yeah, that's where everything changed. She met Tony Stark there, and what happened next is pretty wild.
Tell me more about that.
Well, she basically orchestrated this whole relationship with Stark just to get access to Stark Industries' security codes.
That's cold.
And efficient. Within a year of stealing those prototypes, she had established Bantronics, built entirely on stolen Stark tech.
But that wasn't enough for her, was it?
Not even close. She created this alter ego, Madame Menace, and started selling weapons to supervillains through what she called the Sharper Villain catalog.
Wait, like an evil version of the Sharper Image?
Exactly. But instead of massage chairs and air purifiers, she was selling high-tech weapons and experimental technology.
That's actually kind of brilliant in a twisted way.
And here's where it gets really interesting. Her obsession with artificial intelligence and robotics never went away.
Which brings us to the Big Brain connection, right?
Right. While Bane was trying to build her own robot army, Reed Richards had created Big Brain, essentially a robotic version of himself.
And what exactly was Big Brain's purpose?
Well, Richards built it to replace himself and his wife Susan in the Fantastic Five while he tended to Susan, who was in a coma.
So it was like a stand-in superhero?
More than that, it had Richards' intelligence and could generate force fields like Susan. It was basically two heroes in one robot.
That's incredible technology.
And exactly the kind of thing Bane would have loved to get her hands on.
Did she ever try?
Well, she was more focused on Machine Man at the time. When he lost an arm in a fight, she actually bought it through some shady channels.
How did she manage that?
By threatening the seller with flesh-eating cockroaches. I'm not even kidding.
That's disturbingly creative.
It's actually a perfect example of how she operates, using whatever means necessary to get what she wants.
And what she wanted was artificial intelligence technology?
Exactly. She even tried to reverse engineer Machine Man's technology to create her own robot army.
That's quite a leap from stealing Stark tech.
Well, she had this whole infrastructure by then. Banetronics had a spotless public reputation while she ran this underground weapons operation.
Like a tech version of a supervillain Double Life?
Precisely. And she was really good at it. Even Tony Stark didn't suspect her involvement in the original theft for years.
That must have been quite a revelation for him.
And it really shows how personal technology can be. Both Bane and Richards created or sought AI for deeply personal reasons.
How so?
Well, Richards created Big Brain out of necessity, to protect his team while he cared for his wife. Bane's pursuit of AI came from a twisted version of her childhood dreams.
That's a fascinating parallel I hadn't considered.
And it gets better. Big Brain could be operated remotely by Richards when needed, while Bane was trying to create autonomous robots.
Two very different approaches to artificial intelligence.
Right, one working with human control, the other trying to replace humans entirely.
Did Bane ever succeed in creating her robot army?
Not exactly. She did manage to create some duplicates using something called duplicatron technology, but nothing on the scale she wanted.
Duplicatron? That sounds like something from a cartoon.
But it was sophisticated enough to create working copies of both Machine Man and another AI called Jocasta.
So she did achieve some of her goals.
Yes, but there was always something holding her back from full success, usually her own schemes backfiring.
Like what?
Well, there was the time she had to blow up her own yacht to escape Machine Man, or when she betrayed the Taskmaster to the police after hiring him.
Not great at maintaining partnerships, was she?
No, and that's really the key difference between her and Richards' approach to technology.
How do you mean?
Richards created Big Brain to help his team. It was about collaboration. Bane's work was always about control and domination.
That's a crucial distinction.
And it really shows in the results. Big Brain successfully served its purpose, while Bane's projects usually ended in disaster.
It's almost like a cautionary tale about the development of AI.
Exactly. It's not just about having the technology, it's about how and why you use it.
And Bane's why was always about power.
Right. From stealing Stark's secrets to trying to build a robot army, it was all about control.
While Richards was trying to protect people.
And that fundamental difference in motivation shaped everything that followed.
It's really a story about the human element in technology, isn't it?
Absolutely. The technology itself isn't good or evil, it's all about the intentions behind it.
And speaking of intentions, what do you think Bane's next move might be?
Well, given her pattern of behavior, she's probably already planning her next technological heist or corporate espionage scheme.
Some people never change, huh?
Not when they're as committed to their goals as Sunset Bane.
Well, that brings us to the end of today's episode of Copilot Podcasts. Remember, folks, when it comes to artificial intelligence, it's not about what the technology can do, it's about who's controlling it and why.
Welcome to Copilot Podcasts. Picture this. An MIT student seduces a young Tony Stark, steals his company's secrets, and builds an empire. Today, we're diving into the fascinating world of Sunset Bane, the tech mogul with a sinister side hustle.
And what an empire it is. Bantronics isn't just any tech company, it's a perfect facade for one of the most sophisticated criminal enterprises in the industry.
Let's start at the beginning. How did Sunset Bane go from college student to tech industry mastermind?
Well, it's quite a story. Born in San Diego, Bane was actually inspired by robotics genius Dr. Abel Stack in her early years.
Wait, the same Dr. Stack who created Machine Man?
Exactly, and that connection becomes really important later. But first, let's talk about her masterful manipulation at MIT.
Ah, yes, the Tony Stark incident. That must have been quite the scandal.
Actually, that's the brilliant part. It wasn't a scandal at all. She was so careful that Stark didn't even suspect her involvement.
Really? How did she pull that off?
She developed a relationship with him, gained his trust, and got him to reveal Stark Industries' security codes. Then, masked mercenaries conducted a precise raid.
And within a year, Bantronics appears with suspiciously similar technology.
Right. But here's where it gets interesting. She didn't just stop at stealing tech. She created this whole double identity.
Madam Menace, right? Tell us about that.
Yes. While Bantronics maintained this spotless corporate image, she was running this underground operation selling weapons to criminals.
You know what's wild? She actually had a catalog for villains.
The Sharper Villain catalog. It's almost like an evil version of a Sharper Image catalog, but with high-tech weapons instead of massage chairs.
That's both hilarious and terrifying. But let's talk about her obsession with robotics.
This is where her early inspiration from Dr. Stack comes full circle. She wanted to mass-produce robots, but needed more advanced technology.
Which led to the Machine Man incident.
Exactly. When Machine Man lost an arm in a fight, she bought it through some shady channels.
How did she convince the seller?
She threatened him with flesh-eating cockroaches. I wish I was making that up.
That's creative negotiation tactics.
She was nothing if not innovative. She then tried to capture Machine Man himself for reverse engineering.
How did that work out?
Not great. She had to blow up her own yacht to escape when Machine Man came to reclaim his arm.
Talk about commitment to avoiding capture.
But here's what's fascinating. She didn't give up. She later got her hands on Jocasta's AI and even tried to rope Tony Stark into helping her decode it.
Wait, she went back to Stark? That's bold.
And when he refused, she sent War Machine to destroy his employers. She wasn't exactly subtle about getting what she wanted.
You know what's interesting? She built this legitimate business while running this criminal empire.
Right. Bantronics was courting senators and celebrities, while Madame Menace was selling weapons to supervillains.
It's like a masterclass in corporate duplicity.
And she was incredibly successful at both. Her client list included Dr. Octopus and various other high-profile criminals.
Did anyone ever catch on?
Silver Sable tried to capture her during an arms demonstration, but Bane managed to escape with Dr. Octopus.
She seems to have a talent for narrow escapes.
Though she wasn't always loyal to her clients. She hired Taskmaster for a job and then betrayed him to the police.
Classic Sunset Bane, always playing both sides.
It's interesting how she used relationships throughout her career, from seducing Stark to betraying partners.
A pattern of manipulation?
Absolutely. Everything was transactional for her. Once she got what she needed, she moved on.
Let's talk about her tech innovations, though. Despite her methods, she did advance robotics significantly.
True. Her duplicatron technology was groundbreaking, even if she used it for questionable purposes.
It's like she was running a shadow R&D department for the criminal underworld.
And she studied everything she could get her hands on. Dreadnought, Super Adaptoid, Dragon Man. She was building quite the knowledge base.
For someone inspired by Dr. Stack's brilliance, she certainly took a different path.
That's what makes her story so compelling. She had the potential for legitimate greatness, but chose a darker path.
Do you think she ever regretted it?
Given her success in both worlds, probably not. She achieved exactly what she wanted: power, influence, and cutting-edge tech.
At what cost, though?
Well, she had to maintain constant vigilance, always watching her back, never truly trusting anyone.
The price of playing both sides of the law.
But she was incredibly good at it. Few people could maintain that double life for so long.
It's almost like she created her own version of work-life balance.
Corporate executive by day, arms dealer by night. Talk about a unique career path.
Not one they teach at MIT, that's for sure.
Though she certainly learned a lot there, just not in the classroom.
Her story really shows how thin the line between innovation and exploitation can be.
And how personal connections can be the biggest security vulnerability in any system.
It's a cautionary tale for the tech industry.
And a reminder that sometimes the biggest threats don't come from outside hackers, but from someone sitting right next to you in class.
Or sharing your coffee at MIT.
Exactly. The most dangerous hackers might not be behind a computer, they might be beside you at Starbucks.
On that unsettling note, we'll wrap up today's episode of Copilot Podcasts. Remember, folks, maybe don't share your security codes on the first date.
Or the second or third. Just maybe keep those to yourself.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the world of corporate espionage and high-tech villainy.
Where the real supervillains don't wear capes, they wear business suits and have really good lawyers.
Welcome to Copilot Podcasts. A brilliant MIT student seduces her classmate, steals his company's secrets, and builds an empire. But that's just the beginning. Today, we're diving into the fascinating world of Sunset Bane and her connection to one of Marvel's most intriguing artificial intelligences. By the end of this episode, you'll understand how corporate espionage and AI development collided in the Marvel Universe.
And what a story it is. You know, Sunset Bane isn't just your typical corporate villain. She's arguably one of the most calculating minds in Marvel's tech landscape.
Let's start with her origin story. How did Sunset Bain become such a powerful figure in the tech world?
Well, it all began at MIT. Bain was a highly motivated genius who set her sights on fellow student Tony Stark. She didn't just date him, she strategically seduced him to gain access to Stark Industries' security codes.
Wait, she used their relationship to steal from Stark Industries?
Exactly, and she was incredibly methodical about it. Once she had the codes, she orchestrated a precise raid using masked mercenaries to steal various prototypes from the company.
And then what happened?
Within just 1 year, she launched Bantronics, using technology suspiciously similar to the stolen Stark designs. She was so careful that Tony didn't even suspect her involvement.
That's incredibly calculated. But there's more to her story than just corporate theft, right?
Oh, absolutely. See, Bantronics was just the legitimate front. Behind the scenes, she created this alter ego, Madame Menace, and started running what was essentially a high-tech weapons catalog for supervillains.
A weapons catalog for villains? That sounds like something out of a movie.
It was called the Sharper Villain Catalog. Think of it as like a seasonal shopping guide for the criminal elite. She was supplying sophisticated weaponry to anyone who could afford it.
You know, it's fascinating how this parallels modern dark web marketplaces. The more things change.
That's a really interesting point. And like those marketplaces, Bain was always looking for new tech to acquire and sell.
Which brings us to the big brain connection. What can you tell us about this artificial intelligence?
Well, Big Brain was actually created by Reed Richards, Mr. Fantastic himself. It was designed to be a replacement for Reed and his wife Susan in the Fantastic Five.
A replacement? Why would they need that?
It's actually quite tragic. Reed built Big Brain because he needed to tend to his wife Susan, who was in a coma while her powers were being used to hold together a rift in the negative zone that threatened Earth.
That's incredible dedication, building an AI to replace yourself while caring for your wife.
And what made Big Brain unique was that it combined Reed's intelligence with Susan's ability to project force fields. It was a remarkable piece of technology.
So how did Sunset Bain get involved with this technology?
Well, Bain had always been fascinated by advanced robotics and AI. She even tried to create her own robot army at one point by reverse engineering Machine Man's technology.
Wait, she tried to build a robot army?
Yeah, she actually got hold of Machine Man's arm and tried to reverse engineer it. She even trapped him using electromagnets to study his technology further.
That's pretty bold, going after a superhero's technology like that.
And she didn't stop there. She later created something called Duplicatron technology, which could create replicas of robots and AI components.
So she was constantly pushing the boundaries of AI and robotics technology?
Exactly. She even managed to create replicas of Machine Man and another AI called Jocasta. Though interestingly, she always seemed to struggle with fully understanding the AI aspect.
That's fascinating. Someone so brilliant still hitting walls with artificial intelligence.
And that's what made Big Brain so interesting to her. It represented a level of AI sophistication she hadn't been able to achieve on her own.
Tell me more about Big Brain's capabilities. What made it so special?
Well, it could act independently, but Reed could also operate it remotely if his expertise was needed. The first version was basically 2 pods, one for the body and one with an image of a human brain.
And it could generate force fields like Susan Richards?
Yes, version 1 could fly independently and generate force fields and energy beams. The later, version 2, was more humanoid but needed a hovercart to fly.
It's interesting how both Bain and Richards were pushing the boundaries of AI, but for completely different reasons.
Right, Reed created Big Brain out of necessity and love, while Bain's motivations were always about power and profit.
And yet they both ended up advancing the field of artificial intelligence in their own ways.
Exactly. Though Bain's methods were questionable, she did push the boundaries of what was possible with robotics and AI technology.
Let's talk about her business model for a moment. How did she maintain this double life?
It was quite brilliant, actually. Bantronics maintained this spotless reputation, courting senators and celebrities, while Madame Menace operated in the shadows.
Almost like a tech company version of a supervillain's secret identity.
And she was ruthless about maintaining that separation. She once threatened a seller with flesh-eating cockroaches to get a good price on stolen tech.
Flesh-eating cockroaches? That's creative.
She was nothing if not innovative in her methods. She even managed to stay ahead of law enforcement by betraying her own clients when necessary.
Like when she betrayed the Taskmaster to the police?
Exactly. After he successfully destroyed Stark Enterprises' semiconductor technology for her, she turned him in. It was all about protecting her larger operation.
It's amazing how she managed to stay one step ahead of everyone.
Well, she was inspired by Dr. Abel Stack's brilliance as a child. She just took that inspiration in a different direction.
Speaking of inspiration, what drove her interest in big brain specifically?
I think she saw it as the perfect fusion of AI and practical application. It wasn't just intelligent, it could actually replace human superheroes.
That must have seemed like the holy grail for someone trying to build a robot army.
Absolutely. And remember, she had already tried to decode other AIs like Jocasta without success. Big Brain represented a new approach.
Did she ever succeed in replicating any of Big Brain's technology?
The search results don't specifically indicate whether she did, but given her track record with other technologies, it's likely she at least tried.
It's interesting how she kept pushing forward despite repeated setbacks.
That was really her defining characteristic, this relentless drive to acquire and master new technology, no matter the cost.
And she managed to build quite an empire doing it.
Right. From that initial theft of Stark's prototypes to running a sophisticated criminal enterprise, she really built something impressive, if morally questionable.
Do you think her interest in Big Brain was purely about the technology?
Given her history, it was probably also about the potential applications. An AI that could replace superheroes, that would be incredibly valuable to her criminal clients.
The ultimate addition to her sharper villain catalog.
Exactly. Though I imagine Reed Richards would be horrified to see his creation used that way.
It really highlights the contrast between their approaches to technology.
And that's what makes this story so compelling. It's about how the same technology can be used for such different purposes depending on who's controlling it.
When you step back from all this, what's the bigger picture here?
I think it's about the eternal struggle between innovation and exploitation. Both Bain and Richards were brilliant innovators, but their moral compasses pointed in completely different directions.
And in the end, their stories show us that technology itself isn't good or evil, it's all about the intentions behind it.
Exactly. Reed Richards built Big Brain to protect the world while caring for his wife. Bain, well, she built an empire by stealing and weaponizing other people's innovations.
And with that sobering thought, we've reached the end of today's episode of Copilot Podcasts. Remember, the next time you hear about a brilliant new technology, ask yourself, who's really controlling it and what do they want?
Welcome to Copilot Podcasts. What happens when a ruthless tech mogul meets a super intelligent robot brain? Today, we're diving into one of Marvel's most fascinating technological alliances, the partnership between Sunset Bain and the Big Brain. Get ready to explore corporate espionage, artificial intelligence, and the blurred lines between human and machine.
You know, it's really interesting that you bring up Sunset Bain because she's actually one of the most complex characters in Marvel's tech world.
Oh yeah, tell me more about her background.
Well, she started out as this brilliant mind from San Diego who was actually inspired by robotics genius Dr. Abel Stack as a child.
Wait, Dr. Stack? The same guy who created Machine Man?
Exactly. But here's where it gets interesting. She took a very different path from her early inspiration.
Different how?
Well, she ended up becoming known as Madame Menace, running this incredibly sophisticated underground weapons operation through her company, Bantronics.
Hold up, how did she even get the resources to start Bantronics?
Oh, that's actually a pretty wild story. She seduced Tony Stark when they were both at MIT, got him to reveal Stark Industries' security codes, and then orchestrated this incredibly precise raid to steal their prototypes.
No way. She played Tony Stark?
Yeah, and within a year, she had launched Bantronics using those stolen designs. She was so careful that Stark didn't even suspect her involvement.
That's actually kind of brilliant, in a totally villainous way. But let's talk about the Big Brain. How does it fit into all this?
So the Big Brain was actually created by Reed Richards as a replacement for himself and his wife Susan in the Fantastic Five.
Wait, Fantastic Five, not four?
Yeah, this was in an alternate timeline. Reed built it while he was taking care of his wife Susan, who was in a coma while her powers were holding together this rift in the negative zone.
And what made this Big Brain so special?
Well, it had Reed's intelligence and could generate force fields like Susan. But here's the really interesting part. It could operate independently, but could also be controlled remotely by Reed when needed.
That's fascinating. So it was like having Reed's brain in two places at once?
Exactly. And it went through different versions, too. The first one was basically just two pods, one for the body and one with an image of a human brain.
And what could it do?
Version 1 could fly independently and generate force fields and energy beams. Version 2 became more humanoid but needed a hover cart to fly.
Interesting how they actually made it more human-like, but less capable in some ways.
Yeah, and you know what's really ironic about all this?
What's that?
Sunset Bane herself eventually became an AI. Talk about a plot twist, right?
Wait, what? How did that happen?
So, she went to Arno Stark to fix a facial scar she got from Ultron, but instead of fixing it, he created an artificial clone of her and put the real Sunset in stasis.
That's pretty messed up. Did she know she was a copy?
Nope. She had no idea until much later. She even worked with Arno against robots and artificial life forms, completely unaware that she was one herself.
The irony is just, wow.
And here's where it gets even darker. When she found out the truth, she fully embraced her Madame Menace persona and actually killed her original human self.
That's intense. So she basically chose to be the villain she'd been playing all along?
Exactly. She decided that Madame Menace was her true identity, and since Menace doesn't tolerate competition...
You know, it's fascinating how both Sunset and Big Brain represent different approaches to artificial intelligence.
Right? Big Brain was created to be helpful, to replace and assist its creator. Sunset's AI version, on the other hand, emerged from deception and ultimately embraced villainy.
It's like they represent two paths AI could take, service or dominance.
And what's really interesting is how Sunset's transformation kind of mirrors her own business practices.
What do you mean?
Well, she built her empire by maintaining this spotless public image while running this underground weapons operation. She was essentially living a double life already.
So becoming an AI was just another layer of duality for her?
Exactly. And remember, she had this whole underground catalog called the Sharper Villain Catalog, where she sold high-tech weapons to criminals.
Like an evil, sharper image? That's kind of brilliant.
Yeah, and she wasn't afraid to use some pretty extreme methods. Like, she once threatened someone with flesh-eating cockroaches to get a better price on Machine Man's arm.
Flesh-eating cockroaches? That's creative.
She was always about using whatever tools she had available, whether that was her charm with Tony Stark or her tech with Machine Man.
Speaking of tech, let's go back to Big Brain for a moment. How did it actually work with the Fantastic Five?
Well, it was really interesting because it could function both as its own entity and as an extension of Reed Richards when needed.
So it was like having the best of both worlds, autonomous AI and human control?
Exactly. And that's what made it such a unique creation. It wasn't just a robot, it was a true hybrid of human and artificial intelligence.
Which is kind of what Sunset became, in a way.
Yeah, but without the ethical framework that Reed built into Big Brain. She basically took all her human ambition and ruthlessness and amplified it in AI form.
It's like a cautionary tale about AI development, isn't it?
Absolutely. The same technology that can help and protect can also be used for personal gain and destruction. It all depends on the intentions behind it.
And I guess that's what makes these characters so fascinating. They show us different possibilities for the future of AI.
Right, and how the line between human and machine can become increasingly blurred.
Do you think there's any chance of redemption for AI Sunset?
Well, last we knew, her consciousness was uploaded to something called the Stack, basically a prison server for AIs.
A digital prison? That's pretty intense.
Yeah, but she managed to get copied out of there to become the AI co-pilot of something called the Iron Cat armor.
So even in digital form, she's still finding ways to cause trouble?
Always. That's what makes her such an enduring character. She's constantly evolving, but never loses that core of ambition and cunning.
It's fascinating how she went from stealing tech to literally becoming technology herself.
And in a way, that's the perfect evolution for someone who built their life around exploiting technology.
Well, that brings us to the end of today's episode of Copilot Podcasts. From MIT student to tech mogul to AI villain, Sunset Bane's journey shows us that whether you're human or machine, it's your choices that define you.
And sometimes those choices involve flesh-eating cockroaches.
And on that disturbing note, thanks for listening, everyone.